It's amazing what can be gotten from that song. And that's just one of many Jocko things. You know, the Donna Lee, Teen Town. I mean, I don't know any bass player that hasn't learned that. Jocko was really the one that got all of us playing jazz lines. And I'm not even good at it, but he got me there. He got me where I'm at. And again, it's from taking a Jocko song, staying up all night, and learning it note for note until I was close, you know. And I was doing this, you know, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. I think, if I've got the years right. So that's Jocko. But then there was Larry Graham. Now, Larry Graham was coming straight from funk, you know, in my mind. And he was the master of being able to lay on one note and just making that one note just say everything you needed to say. Where Stanley, you know, I learned how to solo through different things, playing pentatonics and different types of thumbing things. And Jocko, you know, harmonics and harmony. Larry Graham, I learned how to just go, right? Stand, right? But he would just lay right on that one. And I was like, man. And I tell you, here's a little thing that people don't know about me anyway. It was that one note groove that started me going down and up with my thumb. Because as a kid, I could not get that right bounce. I didn't have it. It was, you know, it's not straight. It's, you know, it's got pulses in it. So Reggie started saying, well, why don't you try going down and up with your thumb? And he started teaching me to do it that way. And that was the start of everything. It actually came from Larry Graham. So that's pretty neat, little trivia. Dinner conversation. But also Larry Graham has one of the most complex thumb patterns I've ever heard, and I still don't know it correctly, but it's a song he does called Hair. If you ever get a chance to go back to an old Graham Central Station record and find a song called Hair, you know. And that's not even right. His is more skanky and just a lot better, man. He's so cool. But there's so many things from Larry Graham. If you go back and find some of the old Sly and the Family Stone, and there's even some videos coming out now with Sly and the Family Stone. Check them out and check out Larry on bass. He's a master at simplicity, but also his stuff can be so simple that it's so complex at the same time. He was the first guy I ever really heard use fuzz on the bass. You know, I mean, just like a guitar. Bad example, but man, he's so great at it. Go find all the Larry Graham you can find. But another guy who is an amazing bass player that's influenced me that people probably wouldn't think of is Prince. Prince had a song called Let's Work. I don't even remember which album it was on, but great bass work on all the old Time and the old Prince, early Prince stuff. Amazing bass work. And sometimes you don't know who was actually playing the bass. But I think a lot of that was actually Prince on bass. Amazing, amazing bass work. But like I said earlier, there's the James Jamersons. There's all these names that I can't even think of. You know, there's Anthony Jackson was playing a lot of that stuff. With Money and a lot of the Gamble and Huff music. There's just great bass players. If you go back and listen to any of that music from the 70s, 60s, and 80s even, you'll get a good insight as to where I'm coming from. Because a lot of the people pay attention to a lot of the flashy things that I do. But the way I like to say it is I take the groove that I learned from these James Jamersons and all these guys that played what would seem to be simpler music, even though it wasn't. They played maybe simpler bass lines, but their groove was really what was dominant. I try to take that, and then if I'm flashy, I make sure I put it on top of that strong groove. And I think that's the only reason people will listen to me be flashy, is if it's grooving. So if you're going to learn all the flashy stuff that I'm doing, make sure that you're grooving first, okay? And these guys that I mentioned, these are good people to learn how to groove from. Speaking of Bootsy, got the chance to record with them recently for my Yin Yang project. And, at the time we were recording, we didn't know what it was going to be for. I just happened to find myself in his town, in his hometown. And J.D. Blair, who plays drums with me most of the time, is he's a Parliament, freak, Funkadelics. And I'm a Bootsy fan back from James Brown and the Parliament days. And we said, well, let's just see if we can get a hold of Bootsy. And we located his number and called him up and actually got him on the phone. It was great. I said, hello, Bootsy. I didn't really know what to call him. Hello, Bootsy. This is Victor Wooten. How you doing? He said, oh, everything's on the one, baby. And I was like, yeah, this is Bootsy. I was trying to be cool, though. I really was. I was trying, okay, yeah. But in my insides, I was jumping. I'm talking to Bootsy. I'm still a kid when it comes to these guys. But he invited us to his house. So we went to Bootsy's house, JD and myself and our engineer, soundman Kurt Story. And we just went into Bootsy's studio and just played around. He said, man, let's just record something. So JD and I had a groove that we had played around with at sound check. And so he said, yeah, let's put that down. Just put that down. You play it. So JD and I went in there and played. And Bootsy had me play all the bass. And he was just being Bootsy in the background, coming up with these great lines. And at one point he said, instead of saying what time it is, he was telling me that I was committing a crime on the bass. He was saying, what crime is it, baby? That's what crime it is. And that's what wound up on the record. That's what crime it is. And we just thought it was the greatest. So it's me playing bass, but Bootsy's just, putting the real flavor all over it. He's just a great person, He just really welcomed us into his household, and he even played some stuff for me, And so just being in his presence, it's almost like it's full circle. I grow up listening to this guy, and here I am at his house. It's definitely a dream come true, and I'm grateful for Bootsy. To Bootsy, just for all he's done, not just for me, but for the bass world in general. I know that I wouldn't be here, at least not in this way, if it weren't for Bootsy. So I thank him for that. Great. A lot of people that inspire me that aren't bass players. And I think it's important to get inspiration outside of your instrument, and even outside of music if you can. My parents, I would have to start there. My parents are very, very inspiring people. They are people that will get anything done. Whatever has to be done, they will get it done. They don't feel that they have to go outside of the household or something. Good example, I remember one day we needed more space in our bedroom because I always shared a room with Joseph and Rudy. And we were getting big at this time, So my mom said, you guys need a triple bunk bed. So I was like, okay, where are we going to get it? She went to the wood store, came home with some wood, some nails, and just before the day was over, we had a triple bunk bed. And I'm like, man, and growing up with a mom and a dad that way, has really inspired me. So I take that to the stage. People have seen me break a string. Some people have seen my strap break in the middle of a show and my bass hits the ground. And I'm like, well, that's now part of the performance. Let's go with it. It's improvising. And my parents are some of the best improvisers I know. And I don't mean with music, but with life. And improvising just means making do with what you have. You know, you don't have to have rehearsed it. My mom had never made a bunk bed before, you know. My dad had never booked a band before. When we were 5, I was 5 and Reggie was 13, and he starts booking us with Curtis Mayfield and all these people. They didn't know how to do it, but they also didn't know how not to do it. And they did it. And so I take that to the stage. So my inspiration would start there. Filters down to my brothers. My brothers took after my parents. They were the same way. They are the same way. And so for me, being the youngest of the 5 brothers, it's like I had 7 parents, or 6 parents rather, my 4 brothers and my mom and my dad. They brought me up in that fashion of being an improviser. You know, and again, when I use the word improvising, I don't just mean with music. That's how you can get inspired from anywhere. Bruce Lee is another big influence. You know, I've been in the martial arts since I was a kid, but to see someone like Bruce Lee gain control over himself so much that he could control anyone else, you know, and not even have to hurt them, that's amazing. You know, that's self-control. And I've always been a self-control person, wanting to know everything about myself and be able to control myself. So I take influence from Bruce Lee and bring that to the stage. Anyone that has that much control and over themselves to where they start making everybody else better. I love people that are doing that. Michael Jordan is a prime example. Tiger Woods is a prime example. All the musicians that I stated earlier are prime examples. And it's because they have gotten so good that it allows us to get better. And so that brings me to probably one of the biggest influences now is the people that I see starting to play music now. Like these great bass players that I see coming up. You know, and maybe they're not doing much yet, but I can just see their potential. Because of Stanley Clarke, because of Jocko, because of Bootsy, because of Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Bruce Lee, Tiger Woods, all these kind of people, because of them, it's made me a better musician. So I can see that the better I get, the better the next generation is going to get. So, you know, if I can work really hard, it's just going to help the next generation. So that's a big influence. And that really keeps me going, keeps me practicing. But at the same time, you know, I think about birds. I go out and I hear a robin singing a song, or a chickadee, or a blue jay, or whatever, or even just a crow, you know, that seems to be screaming. But if you listen close, their screams mean something. Where did they learn that? You know, who taught them that stuff? You know, music school, you know, bird singing school, where did they get it? And so that's inspiring to me. Some kind of way they're self-taught. They're pulling this stuff out of somewhere. It's like out of this void, you know. But when it comes to music, if I want to learn to play bass, I think I have to go get lessons. How did the animals do it? That's inspiring thought. You know, lessons are good, but there's a lot inside of us that can be pulled out. And I learned that, you know, you get to a point like Michael Jordan and these guys, gets to a point where there's not a whole lot someone else can teach them. You know, after they've passed all their teachers, they've learned what the teachers have to say, which is important. You got to go inside at a certain point and start pulling your own self out of yourself. I hope that makes sense. That's inspiring. That's self-inspiration. And I think that's the ultimate inspiration. When I was about 5 years old, maybe 6, which means my oldest brother Reggie was 8 years older than